Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my next video. Today, we have got another Dungeons & Dragons build video. And today, the build we're going to be doing, it is, I'm not sure what to call it exactly. I guess the Survivalist, because that's really what this build is all about. Now, this build was one I did for a character that it's one of my favorite characters, actually my favorite character that I've ever played. I really enjoyed this guy. Is it a super optimized build? No, it's actually not all that well optimized at all, in all honesty. But it does what it's intended pretty well, and I couldn't find a whole lot of better ways of doing what I was going for. It just turns out what I was going for was really hard to do effectively. So yeah, so what is the build? Well, it's a build for someone who is a self-made survivalist. Like, this guy goes out and he takes care of business. He can go out into the woods or really any sort of terrain on his own and be fine. He doesn't need help from anybody with anything, and that includes weapons and armor. This guy is the kind of guy who, he's a blacksmith. He has like half of this skill points for this character are in crafting. He's also taking multiple item creation feats. So this guy he does it all. He just needs raw materials and he can take care of stuff. He doesn't need anything. In fact, the character that I played, he refuses to use anything made by anyone other than himself. So yeah. Now, this character, this build, it's hard to separate the two. Basically, in terms of race, just human. You definitely need that feat. It's really important, and the skills are really useful. You're really going to want that extra skill point per level with all those skills going into craft. And you're also going to want that extra feat at first level because of how many feats you need. So in terms of class, alternate fighter druid, starting fighter and then going druid. I did fighter odd levels, the druid even levels, which after 20 level progression, I actually worked this all out. You'd end up with a plus 17 base attack bonus, which is pretty solid, close to full, because druids do get pretty good base attack bonus. Plus 14 to fortitude, which is really solid. Plus 6 to reflex. Plus 10 to will. So pretty decent saves. Reflex suffers a little, but it's not bad. Then you also get up to 5th level spells because druid. Yeah. Now the skills that I went with for this build, let's see. I just went and maxed out a few. Let's see. Craft armor smithing, bow making, weapon making. I actually have the character sheet up here to kind of reference because I kept it in a nice binder for many, many years. I haven't played them in a while, but still. Handle animals got a few ranks. That one's fairly important. Jump, not the most important. Knowledge nature, that's decent. Ride's really important. That one's maxed out, just like the craftings. Let's see. Spellcraft, survival has a few ranks. Probably should have put more, but skills are really hard to come by with this build, especially seeing as intelligence had to be sort of a dump stat, despite the fact that you really need skills, because you really need strength and dex and con for the build to work. And wisdom is also really important for your druid spells. Charisma has some importance as well. So you really need like every stat ability, which is really rough. Int was really only needed for crafting and for all the many, many skills. Yeah, so that's something. Yeah, I think I put strength as the highest one. Let's see. Yeah, I've got strength at the highest. Int and wisdom next. Then con and dex is the next two highest. and charisma as the dump stat, which kind of makes sense. So when you're going to make a character like this, charisma's got to be the lowest. So yeah, I actually ended up with this having con and dex being relatively low. Yeah, and half the skill points are dumped into craft. So that's a thing. This guy, he ended up making all sorts of crazy weapons. So he used a ton of different weapons. One of the feats that he took was one that it's a custom feat that basically just lets him use what is it? Any hand and a half weapon as as a melee. I think it was required a strength of 13 or something like that, and of course, or not melee, martial. And of course, in order to be useful, you'd have to have martial weapon proficiency, which fighters get. Let's see. So he used a ton of weapons. Bastard sword, dwarven war axe, maul, short sword, dagger, and as well as a lance, all made out of different special materials. So basically, he's got something for any situation that may arise. Of course, this build uses the quick draw feat as well, so that you can switch out these weapons really fast. Let's see. There's so many different things. The lance is important because for your animal companion, as a druid, you go with a horse to be a mount, and you go with a light horse to get that extra speed. Maybe in a 6th level, you take craft. I think you go with magic arms and armor first, and then you go no, craft for wondrous is what I have. So the feats that he has currently: quick draw, mounted combat, practice caster to help with the druid stuff, ride by attack, and craft wondrous items. Those are the feats that he's had by 6th level, which is as far as I got him, as well as the custom one, which is a lot of feats, but fighter, which is part of why so many levels of fighters is a very feat heavy build. It's very big on mounted combat, but also not mounted combat. It's designed to be able to fight on the field or not on the field, kind of whatever's coming up will work. Like I say, it's not the most optimized. Putting half your ranks in craft and spreading your resources across so many different things really hurts your optimization in a lot of ways. But I mean, the whole point of this is to be a solo character. This guy fights alone. He can handle any situation. Part of the reason for druid is for being able to heal yourself, get that healing magic in there. Plus, it also has a lot of really good nature stuff, which comes in really handy when you're out in the woods. Fighter, helps you with all that combat stuff. There's reasons why I didn't go druid, mostly because this build uses sword and shield, which there's really no way to do that with a ranger. Not well, because rangers with their weapon style sword and shield isn't an option. Probably because there aren't a lot of feat like that. That particular method of combat is not feat heavy, so that's probably why. And mounted combat's also not one. So one of the options for some reason with the ranger. So which was kind of weird. You'd think that'd actually be a pretty good one for the ranger. A lot of feats, and with their animal companion, they're likely to have a decent mount. But it is what it is. Your animal companion will be actually roughly as strong as a ranger's for the most part, because rangers it's half level, whereas you're putting every other level into druid, so your animal is still going to be half level effectively. Maybe a little worse than a ranger, but not much. Actually, I think it rounds down, so actually I think it actually works out to the same, except you get it earlier than a ranger would, because you're going to get it right at 2nd level when you take your 1st level of druid. You're going to get better healing spells. You're not going to get a lot of the special ranger ones, which is fine. You don't really need those. Yeah, this class it's just a good class all in all. Or sorry, not good class. It's a decent build. It's one that really really close to home for me. Like, I put a lot of heart and soul into this build and this character. Um, I know it's not like the greatest build out there. I understand that it's far from optimal in terms of dealing a ton of damage, but it's a fun build. You get, to, uh, you know, be independent. And if you're playing a solo campaign, this is actually a pretty good build. Most other builds, you're going to have number of weak spots that oftentimes would be just covered by your party. With something like this, you're not going to have that so much, especially if you're in a world where resources are hard to come by, and especially if time isn't a huge factor, because holy crap, does it take a long time to craft some of these items that he was using. Like, I think he had, I think the maul was adamantine, so basically he had a big hammer that can smash through anything. Um, yeah, and then I think cold iron axe. I think that was what it was. The sword was, I believe, Orium, I believe, so that it didn't break. Or if it did break, it could be easily repaired. I think the short sword was actually Thinium. Yeah, he used so many special materials. Thinium, so that, if he happened to kill if he wanted to, prevent someone from being revived, he could get the finishing blow with that and trap their soul. Or, if he was worried about somebody trying to get a hold of his soul for whatever reason, he could just make sure, or if he was worried about reviving, he just has to keep it on him, and then his soul will go into that blade, and it'll make it a lot easier for him to be revived, assuming that they can get a hold of the blade. So there's reasons for all this. He had daggers as well. Those, I think, were fairly standard materials. I don't think there's anything too fancy about them. It's just always good to have a dagger. The lance, of course, for horseback. I think I never settled on a special material for that. Yeah, I believe he was just using light armor, but I think he was going to step that up to heavier armor at some point once he could get, like, maybe a dragon scale full plate or something like that, which, would have been a hard thing to accomplish, but definitely something that can be done. And of course, dragon scale mainly for druid. You can't use metal armor, which is interesting because you can use. I think shields as well, but shields are, you can find them in wood just as easy as you can metal, so not a problem. Armor's a bit of an issue, but weapons, you can have all the metal weapons you want. This guy, he's half his levels are druid, but like, he had so many metal weapons, but that's fine. Druid's, it's only armor, so yeah, certainly an interesting character. I personally, there's a lot more to the character himself than just the build, but that's the build behind him. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of him, or you think of the build. I'd love to hear some of that in the comments. And yes, I know it's not optimal, so yeah. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving me a like. If you haven't already done so, consider subscribing to the channel. Maybe ring that bell, because YouTube's not great about giving those notifications. And anyways, as always, and consider sharing it if you know anyone who might enjoy this. But anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you.